For 1,500 years ago, something enormous rose from the sand. 2.3 million stone blocks stacked into a mountain. And yet, for centuries, almost no one knew what was inside. Hidden corridors, sealed chambers, a stone coffin with no body, and a secret space we only found in 2017. Tonight, we climb inside the last wonder of the ancient world. This is the journey deep into the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Giza plateau sits on the edge of the desert. The largest belongs to one king, Khufu, also called Cheops. Built around 2560 BCE, it stood taller than any structure for millennia. Each side points almost perfectly to true north. No one has ever found written blueprints for how. What we do know comes from the stones themselves, and from the empty spaces hidden deep within. So before we go inside, let's see how it was built. The Great Pyramid wasn't Egypt's first attempt at this shape. A century earlier, King Djoser built a stepped pyramid. Later architects tried smooth sides and nearly failed completely. The bent pyramid's angle had to change midway to avoid collapse. Its neighbor, the Red Pyramid, finally got the shape right. Each attempt taught hard lessons about weight and angle. By the time Khufu built his, the formula was finally perfected. A new pharaoh needed a monument that would last forever. His architect, Himinu, drew up the impossible plan. Every angle, every chamber, calculated in advance. It would need to reach the stars, the priest said, because the pharaoh's soul was meant to rise and join them. So the chambers inside would not just hold a body. They would be a machine for the afterlife itself. Construction began. Tens of thousands of workers arrived. Limestone blocks, some weighing as much as a small car, cut from quarries using only copper tools and hard stone, then dragged for miles across the burning desert. Water poured in front of the sledge reduced the friction. Ramps of mud brick and rubble may have spiraled upward. No one is entirely sure which ramp design was used. What is certain, this was engineering on a staggering scale. Some blocks were lifted higher than a 40-story building. It took an estimated 20 years to complete. And when it was finished, it gleamed pure white. A dazzling, smooth-sided mountain visible for miles. But its true secrets were sealed deep inside. Beside the pyramid, from the same quarry, rose another wonder. The Great Sphinx, carved from a single mound of leftover limestone. A lion's body, and likely the face of a pharaoh. For centuries, drifting sand buried it up to its neck. Only its head remained visible above the shifting dunes. It took centuries of digging to finally free its body. Today it still watches over the plateau, silent and worn. The real entrance was hidden, high on the north face. It was sealed behind a swiveling limestone plug, invisible from outside. For over 3,000 years, it stayed completely hidden. Robbers were still determined to find a way in. In 820 CE, a caliph named Al-Ma'mun tried something drastic. His men heated the stone with fire, then doused it with vinegar. Crack by crack, they tunneled straight through solid rock. Weeks later, they broke through into a passage. This forced tunnel is still how visitors enter today. Inside, a narrow passage plunges downward into the bedrock. The ceiling is barely high enough to stand. It runs for over 300 feet, straight into the rock. Some believe it once aligned with a specific star. The passage ends in solid, unfinished bedrock chamber. Archaeologists call it the subterranean chamber, and its purpose is unclear. Why carve a room that was never completed? One theory, it was a decoy, meant to fool robbers. Because deep above this dead end, the real path continued. Hidden in the ceiling was a granite plug, disguised as solid rock. Al-Ma'mun's men could not break through the granite. So they tunneled around it, through softer limestone instead. Beyond the plug, the passage suddenly rises upward. It is barely wide enough for one person, bent double. This cramped climb leads to something extraordinary above. The walls begin to open, and the ceiling rises higher. The Great Pyramid was about to reveal its masterpiece. The Grand Gallery rises nearly 30 feet above the floor. Its ceiling steps inward, layer after layer, like an upside-down staircase. It is one of the finest stone structures ever built. Along the floor run strange narrow ramps and niches. Some think they held wooden beams or sliding blocks, perhaps to release the granite plugs after the burial. Explorers today walk up a modern wooden ramp through it. At the top, a low, tight passage leads onward. This is the threshold to the king's chamber itself. But first, a strange antechamber of grooved granite slabs. These may once have held stone portcullises to block intruders. Somehow, over the centuries, these final defenses failed. And then, the passage opens into the king's chamber. Every wall, every ceiling slab is solid pink granite. This granite was hauled 500 miles down the Nile. 9 roof slabs weigh as much as 50 tons each. Some of the heaviest stones ever lifted by human hands. At the room's far end sits a single stone box. A sarcophagus, carved from one solid block of granite. Too large to have been carried through the passages after. It must have been placed here as the pyramid rose. When explorers finally reached it, they found something strange. The lid was gone, and the sarcophagus itself was empty. No mummy, no treasure, no golden mask waited inside. Had Khufu's body simply vanished from history? Or had it never been placed here at all? The most likely answer: ancient tomb robbers got there first. Robbery of royal tombs was disturbingly common in ancient Egypt. Even priests were sometimes involved in raiding the dead. Within a few generations, most royal tombs had been emptied. The Great Pyramid, despite its defenses, was no exception. The tomb wasn't Khufu's only preparation for the afterlife. Buried beside the pyramid, sealed pits held something remarkable. In 1954, archaeologists opened one and found a dismantled boat. Over 1,200 pieces of cedar wood, perfectly preserved. Painstakingly, restorers pieced it back into a full-sized ship. 140 feet long, built without a single nail. It may have carried the pharaoh's body down the Nile. Or symbolically, carried his soul across the sky with the sun. Either way, it was built for one voyage only, eternity. But above the king's chamber lay another secret entirely. In 1837, a British engineer named Howard Vyse went looking. He suspected there was empty space above the ceiling slabs. So he used gunpowder to blast his way upward. He found not one, but 4 hidden low chambers stacked above. Today they're called the relieving chambers, above the king's chamber. Their job, to spread the crushing weight of stone above. Without them, the ceiling below might have collapsed centuries ago. Inside, Vyse found something no one expected: painted marks. Crude hieroglyphs, painted by the original construction workers. One mark spelled out a name: Khufu. The first solid proof of who truly built this pyramid. Back down the Grand Gallery, another passage branches off. It leads to a smaller room, called the Queen's Chamber. Despite its name, no queen was ever buried here. Early Arab explorers simply guessed at the name, and it stuck. Its true purpose may have been for a statue of the king's spirit. A niche in the eastern wall may once have held it. The chamber itself seems oddly unfinished, its floor left rough. Why leave a royal chamber incomplete? No one is certain. And this quiet room held one more surprise, hidden in its walls. 2 narrow shafts run from this chamber, deep into the stone. Unlike the king's chamber shafts, these ones don't reach outside. For over a century, they were assumed to be sealed and empty. Then in 1993, a small robot changed everything. Engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink built a crawling camera named Up You Out. It crept nearly 200 feet up the narrow shaft. Then, its camera revealed something astonishing: a tiny stone door. 2 copper handles were fitted into the stone, like a door. Why build a sealed door deep inside solid rock? In 2002, a second robot drilled through and found another door. The shaft, it seemed, had more than one secret layer. To this day, no one has gone past that second door. The king's chamber has its own pair of narrow shafts. Unlike the queen's chamber shafts, these ones reach open air. Some researchers believe they were aimed at specific stars. One may have pointed toward Orion, linked to the god Osiris. The other, perhaps, toward the northern stars that never set. A star that never sets was a symbol of eternal life. Through these shafts, the pharaoh's soul could rise to the heavens. At least, that is the leading theory among Egyptologists. Whatever their true purpose, they prove remarkable precision. So if the pyramid was this well defended, how was it robbed? Ancient robbers likely worked with inside knowledge of the tunnels. Perhaps even workers who had helped build the passages themselves. Within a few hundred years, most of Egypt's tombs were looted. The gold, jewelry, and furniture were stripped and sold. Even the pyramid's outer casing stones were eventually stolen. Much of ancient Cairo was literally built from pyramid stone. Today, the Great Pyramid looks rougher than it once did. Its dazzling white shell is almost entirely gone now. Near the bottom of the Grand Gallery hides another secret. A vertical shaft plunges straight down through solid rock. It connects the upper chambers to the lower descending passage. Explorers call it the well shaft, and its purpose is debated. One theory, it was an escape route for the construction workers. After sealing the granite plugs above, they needed a way out. Climbing down in the dark, squeezed between rough stone walls. A tense, hidden exit from a tomb built to trap intruders. The pyramid fascinated visitors for thousands of years before archaeology. The Greek historian Herodotus visited around 450 BCE. He wrote that 100,000 men built it in shifts. Modern estimates suggest a smaller, more skilled workforce instead. Perhaps around 20,000 workers, not slaves, but paid laborers. Skeletons found nearby show broken bones that had healed. Evidence these builders were cared for, not simply worked to death. Herodotus also repeated wilder rumors he had heard. Tales of curses, secret treasures, and forbidden inner rooms. In modern times, a stranger theory took hold. Aliens built it. The idea claims ancient humans lacked the skill to do it alone. But the evidence tells a very different story. We found the actual quarries where the stone was cut. The tools the workers used, worn from years of labor. Their villages, their bakeries, even their medical records in bone. Their handwriting, scrawled inside the pyramid's hidden chambers. Every clue points to skilled, determined human beings. Not aliens, just extraordinary ancient engineering. In 1798, a French army arrived and changed everything. Napoleon brought scholars alongside his soldiers to study Egypt itself. They measured, sketched, and documented every monument they found. Their work filled a massive publication, Description de l'Egypte. Soldiers also found a stone slab that would crack an ancient code. The Rosetta Stone held the same message in 3 scripts. In 1822, Jean-François Champollion finally deciphered hieroglyphs. For the first time in over 1,000 years, Egypt could speak again. Suddenly, the pyramid's own inscriptions could finally be read. So exactly how did ancient builders move such massive stones? A 2013 discovery finally offered strong new evidence. Papyrus logbooks were found at a Red Sea harbor called Wadi al-Jarf. They belonged to a real overseer named Mirror. His diary recorded ferrying limestone blocks down the Nile, even naming the canals and harbors built just for this project. This proved a highly organized system of logistics and transport. As for lifting stones on site, ramps remained the leading theory. Levers, sledges, and wet sand may have done the rest. Brilliant, patient, human ingenuity, one stone at a time. For centuries, we thought we knew the pyramid's full layout. Then, in the 21st century, physics offered a new tool. Cosmic rays constantly rain down on Earth from deep space. They create tiny particles called muons as they strike our atmosphere. Muons pass through solid stone, but hidden voids let more through. Placing detectors inside the pyramid could reveal hidden empty spaces. It's like an X-ray, but using particles from outer space. In 2015, an international team began the Scan Pyramids project. They placed detector plates in chambers throughout the pyramid. Then they waited and watched the particle data pour in. In 2017, the data revealed something no one expected. A massive empty space hidden above the Grand Gallery itself. At least 100 feet long and never recorded before. Researchers named it simply the Big Void. It was the first major discovery inside the pyramid in decades. 3 independent detector teams confirmed the same result. This wasn't a rumor or a guess. The data was undeniable. But no one has ever physically entered this hidden space. So what could this enormous hidden space actually be? Some suggest it's simply another Grand Gallery stacked above. Others think it may be connected to the ramp building process. Perhaps a leftover construction gap, never meant to be found. A few even wonder if it could hide a second chamber. One perhaps never robbed, never touched in 4,000 years. It's an exciting idea, but right now, it's only a theory. Muon scans can detect a void. They can't show what's inside. To know more, someone will eventually have to look directly. Getting inside the void safely is a serious engineering challenge. You cannot simply drill into a 4,000-year-old monument. So researchers are designing tiny, non-invasive robots instead. Some proposals use microdrones that could fly through narrow gaps. Others suggest tiny endoscopic cameras threaded through existing cracks. Every attempt must avoid damaging the pyramid in any way. It's a delicate balance between curiosity and preservation. For now, the Big Void keeps its secret a little longer. After all this exploration, huge questions remain unanswered. We still don't know exactly how the stones were lifted. We still don't know what lies beyond that second copper door. We still don't know the true purpose of the Big Void. We still don't know exactly where Khufu's body ended up. Even the exact building techniques remain debated by experts today. Every answer here seems to open 2 new questions. And that, perhaps, is the pyramid's greatest power over us. Empires rose and fell in the shadow of this monument. Pharaohs, Greeks, Romans, and caliphs all stood before it in awe. It was already ancient when Cleopatra walked past it. Napoleon's soldiers famously fired their cannons at its face. It has survived earthquakes, looting, wars, and centuries of erosion. And still it stands, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The only one of those 7 wonders still standing today. Tonight, we walked its passages, from entrance to empty tomb. We climbed the Grand Gallery and stood in the king's chamber. We found a door 2 robots couldn't fully open. And a void the size of a cathedral, still unexplained. 4,500 years later, it still keeps secrets. Perhaps that is exactly why we keep coming back. Some mysteries aren't meant to be solved quickly. They're meant to pull us back, again and again. The Great Pyramid still has stories left to tell.